Prepper003 here today with another video for you. And this one I've been actually kind of just thinking about and want to really just touch on the topic, and that is illumination for post-SHTF. Now right now I know that a lot of people like to go back into the old school days, which is going to be kind of candle and lantern type of thing, which would be very useful in the extreme long term. But what we do see happening in a lot of short-term SHTF scenarios is a lot of actual damages caused by using such devices by people who are inexperienced in using them, which is where you have fires because of people trying to use candlelight to make their way through their houses without power during hurricanes and other types of disasters, or even just in power outages where it's not even a major SHTF scenario. But still, you still have that pretty much a bit of a big threat, and that's what I was wanting to try to avoid and give you guys some type of ideas on some things that maybe you can think of changing that route and trying to avoid that fire damage, which is going to be pretty much the big topic really, was trying to avoid that and trying to get people to steer towards maybe some other things other than candles. Now I do know that for the biggest thing, that especially when you come into the electronic devices right here, is they are going to run on batteries, and they are going to have pretty much a shelf life, if you will, on how long you can store the batteries for. So if you're looking at an extreme long-term situation like 10 years plus, then and even some of the batteries last much shorter than that. So, but if you're looking at an extreme long-term situation, maybe going that old school route may be a thing to go to. And you can also go the old school route, but these are just some type of ideas I'm throwing around here. So why do you want to have some external illumination? Well, the big thing is going to be, especially whenever there's no power or anything like that, a lot of interior houses, a lot of businesses, and a lot of the areas where you might be going to scavenge after a long-term SHTF scenario has happened and you're running low on supplies and you have to go and scavenge for things that are needed for daily living. Well, a lot of those areas are dark and you're unable to see. And if you're unable to see, you're unable to tell if there's a threat in the area. And I'm not talking about a human threat, I'm talking about just structural damage. If there's massive structural damage where you're walking forward and all of a sudden your feet are coming out from under you because you didn't know that there's a huge hole in the floor. Just one big thing is there. Another thing is working on guns, working on vehicles, working on the actual electronics that you have. Maybe you have solar farms, maybe you have different types of things on the ranch, but there are a lot of times, especially in the dark, you might need to have some type of these illumination devices ready at hand to be able to see and to do your work. I know that working at the shop using a small handheld light like these right here are a lifesaver, especially when it comes to working on those small parts, trying to see where things are fitting, and especially whenever your work light is getting in the way with you trying to work into those small areas. The next thing is going to be pathfinding, especially if you are in a bug out scenario and you're working your way through the wilderness in the dark. The moonlight is not always going to be out. There's times where you have no moon because of overcast, where you have a new moon, and other things along that type of line, even if it's just heavy, thick canvas tree cover to where you can't see anything in the forest, and you're still having to move and find your way. So having a red light like this right here can be a very big lifesaver, and it can actually be a little bit less of a signal placement as you would be with a lantern or a torch. And then again, those things can have a drawback of having a fire threat as well. The next thing is going to be a place marker, like using these just cheap everyday glow sticks right here. If you're trying to make your way through underground cover, like in a sewer or a cavern, or even just inside of a large apartment area, like a multitude apartment complex, and you have to make a quick exfil of the area, being able to quickly follow your glow sticks out, maybe you can grab them, toss them a different way, or just pick them up as you're going. But it's a very quick way to figure out where you're going and to keep yourself from getting lost. Now the next point I'm going to make is lumens aren't everything. You'll always see like people sitting there and going, okay, this is 1,000 lumens, this is 800 lumens. Lumens isn't everything. There are different times for different things. Like, for example, having a smaller lumen headlight can be very good for reading maps and things, and that type of in very low profile environment where you don't want to give your signal away to somebody, but you still need to view your map or view a tool that you're working with. and still maintain that low profile. So having a low lumen light does really come in handy. And having some type of light that you can dial, like this Maximus right here, where you can turn in and change the intensity, can be very beneficial too. The next thing is going to be type of illumination devices. Right now I have a variety out here. Right now you have pretty much your standard handheld ones, kind of like an EDC styles like you have right here. Maybe a work light right here, something that you can just easily use. Then you have some of the ones that you can strap to a rifle, and this right here is a standard handheld one, but you also do have the capability of having devices like this right here where you can attach it directly to a rifle. And if you want to go on to the topic of weapon lights, I do have a whole separate video on that already on my channel, but I'm just going to say that you do have this option. Then there are options of mounting it to your ballistic helmet or your bump helmet. And then of course there's the basic red headlight, which is something that is very beneficial, as I mentioned before. And then there is glow sticks, and even the cheap ones right here are very beneficial to have on you to keep always inside of your get home bag or your ruck. The nice thing about these right here is that they are waterproof. I mean, you can use these completely submersed, and they don't run on batteries. Now the thing is that they do have a shelf life, and on top of that they also do not last forever. I mean, the extended amount of time that I've gotten out of these cheap ones right here was just a little bit over 12 hours before the illumination was very dim. I mean, up to 24 hours after, well, from the 12 hours to the 24 hours, you were still able to get a little bit of illumination out of it to kind of just breeze over instruction manuals and stuff in zero visibility darkness, but still it wasn't very beneficial at all at that point. And the last thing I'm going to touch on you guys with is going to be top companies. There's pretty much two companies that I really go for with my flashlights and weapon lights, as you can probably tell, and that's going to be Streamlight, and for the most part is going to be Surefire. Right now they've worked very well for me. I haven't had any issues with any of my Surefires, and that's why I just keep buying them, because they work so well for me. A majority of my weapon lights that I run on my pistols and rifles are either Surefire or Streamlight. So right now I just can't say enough about those two companies. I know there are plenty of other companies out there that are very reputable, but these are the two that I can personally have hands-on experience with and recommend. Now, the last thing is going to be touching on is just going to be, if you are going to use electronics, keep a bunch of spare batteries. This is something right here that I keep inside of my get home bag. I just brought it out for the video, and as you can see, I've already used one of the spare batteries right here to replace the light that I keep in my Streamlight, because it was getting a little dim, and I try to keep them all topped off that way so that they're always good to go. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys watching. I want to hear what you guys have to say on the topic of illumination after a post-SHTF scenario. What you guys would use in that type of scenario, if you guys would use a handheld, a headlamp, or if you guys would just kind of use, like I mentioned before, which is going to be older style illumination, which is going to be kind of your candles and your lanterns and things along that basic type of line. It's a really interesting topic. I find that it's not something that's very touched upon very much, so I just wanted to bring it up on my channel and see what kind of feedback I can get from the prepper community and what the generalized topic is on that. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys watching. Have a great day. And remember, those that prepare for today survive tomorrow.